There is a claim made by three of the world's largest religions. It is a claim that serves as the ultimate shield for any sacred text. They assert that their holy book has been perfectly preserved, uncorrupted, and unchanged since the moment it was first revealed or written. But history does not deal in shields. History deals in parchment, ink, archaeology, and the inevitable errors of human hands. When we strip away theology and look strictly at the physical evidence, a fascinating paradox emerges. The question is not which book is spiritually true. The question is strictly historical. Which book has survived the ravages of time, translation, and copying with its original text intact? To answer this, we must examine the three foundational texts of Abrahamic faith. The Torah, the bedrock of Judaism, preserved by a lineage of scribes who counted every single letter. The New Testament, the foundation of Christianity, surviving not in one original manuscript, but in a massive, chaotic ocean of early copies. And the Quran, the final revelation in Islam, guarded by a living, breathing chain of memorizers stretching back 14 centuries. Let us begin with the Torah. The Jewish tradition of textual preservation is rooted in obsessive discipline. Between the 7th and 10th centuries CE, a group of Jewish scribes known as the Masoretes developed a rigorous system of vowel pointing, cantillation marks, and letter counting protocols designed to make a single alteration statistically impossible. For centuries, however, skeptics pointed out a glaring historical gap. The oldest complete Hebrew Bible we possessed was the Leningrad Codex, dated to 1008 CE. 1,000 years is more than enough time for a text to drift, mutate, or be intentionally altered. Then, in 1947, a Bedouin shepherd threw a rock into a cave at Qumran and shattered a clay jar. Inside were the Dead Sea Scrolls. Suddenly, scholars had biblical manuscripts dating back to the 3rd century BCE, pushing the physical evidence back by over a millennium. When researchers unrolled the great Isaiah scroll and placed it side by side with the medieval Masoretic text, the results stunned the academic world. After 1,000 years of manual copying, the texts were approximately 95% identical. The variants that did exist were largely orthographic, minor spelling differences, grammatical shifts, while the Dead Sea Scrolls revealed that multiple versions of biblical texts coexisted at Qumran. They also proved that the Proto-Masoretic line, the direct ancestor of today's Hebrew Bible, was already preserved with stunning accuracy, virtually identical to the text we read today. The archaeological evidence overwhelmingly validated the Jewish claim of meticulous generational fidelity. The Torah did not drift. It was anchored. Turn now to the New Testament, where the model of preservation is entirely different. We do not possess the original autographs of Paul's letters or the Gospels. What we have is an explosion of copies. There are over 5,800 Greek manuscripts, tens of thousands of early Latin and Coptic translations, and countless quotations preserved in the writings of early church fathers. By sheer volume, the New Testament is the best attested work of ancient literature. But this abundance comes with a complex catch. Because there are so many manuscripts, there are an estimated 300,000 to 500,000 textual variants across the New Testament tradition. To the untrained ear, that number sounds like a catastrophe. But academic textual critics clarify the reality. The vast majority of these variants are entirely insignificant. A moved word order that does not change the translation, a spelling difference, a scribe accidentally skipping a line. However, a small fraction, roughly 1%, are what scholars classify as meaningful and viable. These are variants that change the meaning of a passage and have a plausible claim to being the original reading. Famous examples include the longer ending of the Gospel of Mark and the story of the woman caught in adultery in the Gospel of John, both of which are absent from our earliest nearly complete codices, such as Sinaiticus and Vaticanus. The Christian claim of preservation does not rely on every single copy being flawless. It relies on the rigorous science of textual criticism. By comparing thousands of manuscripts, scholars can triangulate the original reading with a remarkably high degree of confidence. The text is not perfectly preserved in any single surviving manuscript, but the original text is highly reconstructible. Finally, we arrive at the Quran. The Islamic claim of preservation is unique because it is not solely dependent on written records. It is rooted in the concept of Tawatur, a mass continuous, unbroken chain of oral memorization that ensures the spoken word today matches the spoken word of the 7th century. Historically, the written text was compiled and standardized under the 3rd Caliph, Uthman, around 650 CE. To prevent communal division, Non-conforming codices were reportedly destroyed, establishing a single, unified text. For a long time, this narrative was accepted primarily as a matter of faith. Then came modern archaeology. The Birmingham Quran manuscript, radiocarbon dated by Oxford University, places its parchment, and by extension, the ink written upon it, between 568 and 645 CE with a high degree of probability. This date range aligns astonishingly well with the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad and the subsequent Uthmanic standardization, providing powerful physical evidence for the early existence of the Quranic text. But history rarely offers a perfectly clean narrative. In Yemen, scholars discovered the Sana'a Palimpsest. A palimpsest is a manuscript where the original text was scraped off and written over. The upper text aligns perfectly with the standard Uthmanic tradition. However, the erased lower text, revealed through modern multispectral imaging, exhibits textual variants, word substitutions, omissions, rearrangements. These differences go beyond mere dialectical variations in pronunciation. This discovery does not disprove the Quran's antiquity. Rather, it suggests a brief period of textual fluidity with independent companion codices before the Uthmanic standardization locked the text into a single, canonical format. The academic consensus acknowledges this early diversity, while Islamic scholarship traditionally views these variants as remnants of independent companion codices that were superseded to ensure communal unity. So, which book is actually preserved? The answer depends entirely on how you define the word. If preservation means a single, unbroken, meticulously counted chain of scribal fidelity verified by a 1,000-year time capsule, the Torah stands as a monumental achievement of human discipline. If preservation means the ability to reconstruct an original text with near certainty from a massive, variant-rich ocean of early copies, the New Testament offers an unparalleled dataset for historical reconstruction. And if preservation means a synchronized, living oral and written tradition that was standardized remarkably early in its history, the Quran presents a compelling case backed by emerging radiocarbon evidence. The controversy is not that these texts are hopelessly corrupted. The controversy lies in the gap between the theological claim of absolute, letter-perfect, instantaneous preservation and the historical reality of human transmission. Ancient texts were handled by human hands. They were copied in dimly lit rooms, translated across languages, and carried across deserts. To expect them to be entirely free of minor variants is to misunderstand the nature of history. But to look at the manuscript evidence and claim they are fundamentally corrupted is to ignore the overwhelming data. The real story is not one of destruction, it is one of survival. And against all the odds of antiquity, all three of these texts have survived with their core messages remarkably, undeniably intact. The true marvel is not that they are flawless, but that after thousands of years, we can still read them, study them, and hear the voices of the past speaking clearly through the ink.